Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Greetings and salutations, Rotaractors of the Ascension MDIO. I'm the very right Reverend Brother Pastor, Deacon Doctor, and now Daddy, Andrew Ward. I'm the president of the Rotary Club of New Orleans River Bend and the grants chairman for District 6840. For a day job, I play professor of political science at Tulane University in scenic New Orleans, Louisiana, the Big Easy crescent city that care forgot beneath the sea. And by night, I'm a tour guide of the French Quarter and an MC for a whole host of events from secondhand fashion shows in Mississippi to reggaeton concerts in East Africa. In other words, I spend an inordinate amount of time standing in front of people or now popping out of the Zoom grid practicing my public speaking. And over the course of the last however many years, I think I can safely say that between the classroom, the stage, and the gutters of the French Quarter, I've made just about every mistake in the book. And as such, I think I might be able to offer a small kernel of advice, or at least of warning, for some of you as you launch your own careers and increase your own public speaking prowess. I recently learned that the number 2 fear of American citizens is being burnt alive. Number 1 is public speaking, because the biggest mistake most people make is thinking that the speech, the presentation, the board meeting is about them. It most assuredly is not. The message, the motivation, the methodology for all good public speaking is directly aligned with the perspective of Rotaract, namely service above self and Rotary in action. In short, it's not about you. It's never about the speaker. In fact, it's about what the audience members feel when the speaker hits the right buttons. Great, lovely. Thanks, Andrew. Easier said than done. But how does one make that actually happen? Well, today, with your permission, I'm going to give you a few ideas, things that I've found very helpful for me in my work with my style, a couple of examples, and then you can all switch to a more discussion-based format to address as many of the questions as you have, both here, and feel free to connect with me offline afterwards. Miss Allison Barnes, I'm sure, will be happy to disseminate my contact information. Warning, warning, red flag, danger, Will Robinson. In no way, shape, or form do I suggest that you should take the whole kit and caboodle of what I say in its entirety. Indeed, the hope is that you find 1 or 2 things in what I say that sounds interesting, that you might try it out yourself, see if it works. And then, true to the scientific method, you can accept or reject the hypothesis after the real-world experimentation. And allow me, if I may, to speak briefly about the welcoming laboratory that you all have at your disposal, the Rotary, Rotaract, Interact world. This is a friendly crowd. This is a receptive audience who is already on your side because of your enthusiasm, your dedication to a common mission, the work that you've already done, and all that they are personally that they have to look forward to because you are obviously so friggin' awesome. And yes, we shall address your magnificent you-ness in short order. But let's just put that in our back pockets for a second and get down to brass tacks. Form and content. In my experience, because again, that's all I or anyone else can speak upon, 80% of public speaking is not about the speaking at all. It's about how you present yourself, nonverbal cues, and how you say things, not necessarily what's being said. We all know the feeling of being in a lecture or a sermon or a presentation about a fantastically intriguing topic, but the speaker drones on endlessly and horribly with no respect to time or audience engagement, etc., etc., etc. It's horribly depressing. It can almost feel like you've been robbed of potential enlightenment. And conversely, some speakers can carry on endlessly for an hour or more and never actually deliver a single substantive bit of anything. Do you know what I'm talking about? I see some heads nodding through the virtual recorded ether. As you already know, neither of these extremes is preferable. So what can you do to find that sweet spot in between? Well, as I say, here are a few tips I might be able to offer. First and foremost, be clear. Be clear in why you're there. Are you there to inform, to educate, to entertain, to encourage, to convince, or perhaps a blend of some or all of these. Just be able to articulate before you even go into the place that you're going to give the presentation, why you're going somewhere, to say what to whom. A lack of clarity can often be very harshly judged, especially by the, shall we say, pale, stale, and male rank and file that is the hallmark of traditional Rotary. Secondly, control the space. It's yours. You have the floor. You have the Zoom grid. It's yours, so own it. There are several things you can do to ensure ownership of this sacred space, like sorcerers of old, preparing the mystical circle on the ground before casting powerful spells. Perform a ritual necessary to get you into the right headspace. Do you come from an athletic background? Do you need to do some stretches before you do a big race or a big game? Well, try doing those stretches before you do a big presentation or even a small presentation. How about some breathing exercises? Maybe some yoga, maybe getting up in the mirror and telling yourself how great you are and you got this. Some people have a chorus background and they like to do scales and vocal warm-ups, which is a very good thing to do, and a classic voice warming exercise, which will benefit you tremendously. Theater people have to be some of the most superstitious humans I've ever met in the entire world. There's no whistling backstage. You have to eat a meal on the front of the stage before you give a performance so you don't vomit in the middle of a play. Never saying the name of Shakespeare's Scottish play in the theater for it, draws on the evil juju. Those rituals and superstitions serve theater people so well because it takes them out of their normal mundane headspace, and these rituals sort of cross into the sanctum sanctorum of the theater. It's almost like a temple for public speaking, and now there's something different about them and the way they breathe and the way they hold themselves, and so they can go out and give these presentations. You don't have to be quite that elaborate. In fact, it might be a disservice if you do, but you are encouraged strongly to have superstitions of your own. Have little rituals that you do before you're about to give a speech to get you into that headspace. Draw yourself across the threshold from the normal mundane world into the superhuman one, the superhuman you that is about to deliver an exquisite bit of oratory brilliance. Secondly, time. It's always better to go a little under the time that's allotted for you than over. Remember the old vaudeville expression, always keep them wanting more. Get people really into what you have going on, and when it's over, have them chomping at the bit to get you to come back. Much better than the opposite, as you all know from personal experience already. Next up, outfit. What you wear, how you present yourself. Oscar Wilde once said you can never be overdressed or overeducated. Now, if you show up somewhere and everybody's wearing t-shirt and jeans and you're wearing a ballroom gown or a tux and tails, you will cut an extraordinary dash. You will be memorable, and people will say, oh, that is a finely dressed person. It's much better to do that than the opposite, showing up in the jeans and t-shirt with a barbecue stain down the front when everyone else is wearing, at least business casual or above. So the next thing is to know your audience. Frame the context. Is this a crowd that will react positively to your personal stories of academic achievement, to family life, to devotion to rescue dogs, etc.? Know exactly who it is that you're going to talk to, what it is that's important to them. Because I said at the beginning of the presentation, it's often not about you at all. It's about what's going to touch their buttons. So know the space. If at all possible, visit the physical space before you give the presentation so you know what you're dealing with. And then know as much as you can about the people in the crowd as conceivable in order to provide the greatest button pushing possible. Third of the major tips that I'm giving, righteous confidence. You are wildly impressive. You are already. You are movers and shakers and leaders, not leaders of the future. I mean right here and right now. You have already proven yourselves with a string of accomplishments and consistent dedication, which has brought you to this meeting right here and right now, this latest form of professional development across thousands of miles and hundreds of communities. You are carrying out a new wave of futurity. You're making a new beyond for this organization, yes, but on a larger scale, you're the orchestrators of a new reality with a place for so many to contribute, for their wishes to be expressed. And until that time has come, you will continue to be the ones giving voice to the voiceless. And this is no abstract theory. This is what you're doing already. That's what Rotary, Rotaract, Interact, that's what specifically the Ascension MDIO is doing. You wouldn't be on this call right now if you weren't. So sell yourself. You got this. Move confidently into the midst of traditional power brokers and do it with your head held high. Now, I recognize that this can be very, very difficult. Young women in particular have a culturally imposed tendency to tone themselves down, hold themselves back, and use disqualifying language, employing filler or crutch words such as like, you know, kind of, I don't know, but just, no, yeah. That being said, and so on. Those are just a few of the crutch words that I have certainly heard. I'm guilty of using myself on occasion. We all have them. The important thing for you in your own development as a public speaker is to identify which crutch words you use, which phrases you employ, and then associate it with some kind of physical action. This has been so helpful for me in my own life regarding a foreign language study. And once you've identified your needless filler word or words, this disqualifying language, focus on it. Be mindful when you use it. Pinch your thigh, pull your ear, put your hair behind it, slap a rubber band or a hair tie on your wrist. Take a second, pause, be silent, and then move on. I'm not talking about just in public speaking. I'm talking about in life. This benefits your daily existence as well by simply encouraging you to be more mindful of what you say, how you say it, and what you do with that knowledge. Practice more than you think you need to. Keep that hair tie on your wrist all the time. Keep that earlobe ready to be tugged whenever necessary. Fourth major point. As I mentioned, 80% of the presentation is not the substance of the presentation at all. The 20% of your presentation that is actual content, most of your audience sticks to that high modernist ideal of tell me what you're going to say it, then tell me what you've just said. This is the idea of repetition and clarification. That's really the name of the game. Many of you are familiar with it in the writing classes. Introduction, body, conclusion. Tell me what you're going to say it. Tell me what you've just said. Repetition, clarification. Did I mention tell me what you're going to say it. Tell me what you've just said? Well, we just did. Fifth and finally, tricks of the trade. This is the fun stuff. Audience participation. I mentioned earlier, I've done some tour guiding in the French Quarter of New Orleans. Quite a place to cut one's teeth in the world of public speaking. You have every conceivable distraction going on. You've got drunken tourists. I said drunken tourists. You've got trash trucks and mule carts, and you've got bachelorette parties and people going, woo, and everybody holding their hurricanes, their hand grenades, their huge ass beers, whatever they have, promenading down Bourbon Street. And you've got to keep your tour group focused on you and whatever bit of history you're trying to impart upon them. So over the course of 8 years in the French Quarter, I gave about 2,400 tours to groups of 28. That's the legal limit. And over the course of those 2 hours, I made a point in every single one of those tours to physically touch every single person on the tour and include them as part of the story. And it worked. I'll give you an example. At the very beginning of one of my tours, I talk about the old cannibals that used to live in New Orleans. The Atacapas, and that tribe, it literally translated as man-eaters. What they would do is carve out pieces of their victims while they were still alive and eat them while they were watching. Pretty gruesome, right? Oh, I have your attention now if I didn't before. And I would make a point of finding someone who seemed as though they were really into the tour at the very beginning, and I would use them as my victim, and I would be the Atacapas carving them up and eating them. And then I'd scoop out their heart or their eyeballs, chop off their calves, things like that. Not in real life, just in the presentation. And they would love it. And what this does is it inspires everybody else on the tour to sort of harken back to their earliest days. They're all second graders again, and they just saw somebody else get picked, and they say, "Oh, me, pick me! I want to be part of the story." So the next story, when there's a yellow fever epidemic, and I know too soon, or there's some sort of gruesome haunting happening down on Governor Nichols Street, you include one person after another, just a slight touch on the elbow, calling out, incorporating them into the story, so that by the end of it, it hasn't been the sage on the stage, just me, the tour guide, talking at all those people, but we have all been part of a production together. And so obviously in a lecture hall, it's extremely difficult to do that. You can't go out and touch all those other Rotaractors or Rotarians, but there is a way of including them. And the same is true for Zoom. You know, in this new Zoom world, it's simply not possible at all. So what's the equivalent? What do you think? Take a moment. What's a way of including absolutely everybody that is, or at least one person at a time in a Zoom meeting or in a very, very large presentation? How do you get them to feel like they're part of the production, the presentation themselves? Go ahead, take a moment. I'll wait. Keep going. Okay, good. Yes. The easiest one in the world, saying their name. Say my name, say my name. That's the thing to do. If you can see their name scrawled out on the screen, call them. Make a comment about something that you see in the background. Oh, I couldn't help but notice you have those funny books. What are those over your shoulder? Or how about that? Why do you have a frog with a cactus coming out of its butt? Those are things where you can engage people, let them know that they are being seen, that they're part of the presentation. Call them out, call them in, make them be with you. Then take questions. And this part is key. This is a great trick the Indian ambassador taught me once. Repeat every question someone gives to you back to them. And this little habit kills not one, not two, but 3 birds with 1 stone. First, it shows that you're really listening. You care about what the person has to say. Second, the inquirer gets to have their own words rephrased, ideally making them sound smarter than they are in front of others. People love nothing more than that type of recognition. Third, it has the added benefit of giving you more time to actually consider your answer. Next up, I thought I'd say a word or two about this new normal with the Zoom meetings. I've already touched on a few things, but we can go deeper. By the end of last spring, I was on 6 to 8 hours of Zoom calls per day. It was mind-numbing, dull, dreary, dim, grim, and wretched. But there were some ways to brighten up the otherwise dismal marathons, and herein I will offer a few small tidbits of Zoom etiquette. First off, as much as humanly possible, keep your camera on. Nothing is more profoundly disheartening and sucks the winds out of a presenter's sails than a grid of black squares with faceless names thereupon. Have a messy room? No problem. Spruce it up with a virtual background of your favorite vacation spot, a dream island paradise perhaps, the deck of the Starship Enterprise, or just endless Rotaract logos. Use it as a chance to break the ice. You can start conversations and make connections with other attendees on the meetings who are probably as brutally bored as you are. Be the solution to that problem yourself and inspire others to follow suit. Next, don't eat. Try to sneak some food before or after the meeting, but not during it, not while someone else is talking and everyone else can see you shoveling that hummus and chips into your maw and maybe even hearing a chew, squish, gulping that results. A drink every now and then is perfectly acceptable, especially if you can invite others to join you. Social! Thirdly, and this is a subtle but big one. Watch me now. Face on chin denotes boredom, spacing out, zoning out, not caring. Yes, we get it. You're tired. We are all tired of the virus, and the doom and gloom, yet another Zoom, is daunting indeed. But by presenting yourself well, sitting upright and alert, providing cues that you are engaged, such as nodding, pointing, using emojis, that's all great. Cheek on fist means I don't care. Entertain me. Tiger King was so much better than this. Don't be like that. Lastly, take advantage of this Zoom culture. There's so much more you can get away with here than in person. Subtle facial expressions are so much more visible up close. Active chat and written commentary can take place in real time. You don't need to wear pants. You don't need to wear pants ever again. And failing everything else I've just said, you can always spice up a boring old Zoom call with sock puppets. Hi, everybody. I love Zoom. Oh, my God. Your breath stinks. Well, your feet are smelly. Hey, that's not nice. It's time for a striptease. I beg your pardon. A striptease. A striptease. Oh, wait, look, Elephant Man. Oh, how embarrassing. Time for me to go. You don't need to use sock puppets, but it's certainly an option, and it definitely gets people's attention. Take every opportunity you get to practice. Church, school, Toastmasters, Rotary Club, ask them if you can be their guest speakers. I cannot emphasize this enough. Rotary clubs, of which there are thousands and thousands around the world, are always looking for guest speakers every single week. So all you got to do is pick up the phone, or, I know it's 2:20. People are much more inclined to just send emails and text messages. So do that if you got to. Contact the person who's responsible for booking the speakers at the Rotary clubs. Let them know that you would love to be a guest speaker. They will be grateful that you have reached out to them, and they would love to schedule you as a speaker at their club. So you have this inbuilt friendly audience that wants you to come, that wants to hear what you have to say, and is going to give you a lot of encouragement and good feedback if you so desire. And the added bonus of getting a free lunch every time you go. Or you can come visit my club, the New Orleans Riverbend Club, and we meet on Tuesday evenings at a bar. Yes, we are a drinking club with a service problem, and you are welcome to come and join us. 6:30 Tuesday evening at Acropolis on Ferret Street in New Orleans. Therefore, in conclusion, brothers and sisters, I urge you to be crystal clear in why you are there, to whom you are saying what. Secondly, I urge you to own the space. You've earned it. You've got things to say that will tactilely benefit the listeners. Be confident. Do not let the patriarchy get you down. You belong in every space you have a microphone, and you deserve a whole lot more than that. Fourth, ensure your content is clear and concise, if not outright entertaining. And lastly, employ any and all tools of the trade that work for you. But the only way to do so is through regular practice and actively pursuing every opportunity to speak that the universe gives you. Find you, be the best version of yourself, and share it with the others. They will appreciate it. Again, my name is Andrew Ward from the New Orleans Club of Rotary Riverbend. I totally butchered that. Let's try that again. My name is Andrew Ward. I'm being clear and concise. And I'm the president of the Rotary Club of New Orleans Riverbend. I invite you to come visit us. Let me know when you're in town, and we can have you as a speaker, either in person with masks and socially distanced, or perhaps on the Zoom grid itself. Ms. Allison Barnes is happy to provide you with my contact information if you have any other questions. And I hope this gives ample opportunity for you to discuss amongst yourselves various tricks of the trade that have worked with you in the past and that perhaps you can share with each other. Thank you. I hope you all have a splendid winter break. Take care. Stay safe, sane, and sanitized. Yours in service, Andrew Ward.